To conclude Mega March, after reviewing all 10 games in the original Mega Man series, I've decided to highlight a classic, Megamania, for the Atari 2600. No, it doesn't have anything to do with Capcom, Mega Man, or even Star Trek, despite the player controlling a mobile blaster that looks strangely like the Starship Enterprise. We'll get back to that. Megamania was released by Activision in 1982 for the Atari 2600. Designed by Steve Cartwright, who continues his career in video game and software development to this day, Megamania will very quickly remind many players of a game like Space Invaders. You control a spaceship, blasting aliens out of space from a top-down view, as enemies work their way down the screen, coming right for you. You are subjected to the effects of the Megasphere, as enemies can pass you on the ground without killing you, but they will wrap around to the top and bottom of the screen, returning for you. You can't escape them, you must defeat them. Energy is drained over time, and the more energy left at the end of a round increases the points you are awarded. The player controls what the manual refers to as a mobile blaster, and you have the ability to guide it back and forth horizontally on the screen. I noticed early on that it appears as though I could guide my shots a little depending on the direction I was moving. This is by design, and there's an alternate, slightly more difficult game mode where you can't fire as fast, and shots are fired in straight lines. The enemies leave a lot up to the imagination, and while I thought that it was cool at first to have some of them animated in interesting ways, I was kind of disappointed that the lore of this game doesn't extend to the enemies. Instead, the manual refers to them by simple names describing their shape, including bow tie, cookie, and radial tire. Still, despite the enemies having basic shapes, the player's character appears to have another iconic shape, that of the USS Enterprise from Star Trek. Although the manual says you're in charge of a fleet, you only control one ship at a time. This is their way of explaining multiple lives for the player. The game lacks any music at all, but the sound effects are pleasing to the ears, even when your character dies. I didn't find the sounds in this game too grating, the way some other Atari games have a tendency to be these days. At the time, almost any sound they could get out of the console was cutting edge, but these days a lot of them just sound like static and noise. These sound effects have a way of fitting the action on the screen in ways that don't feel too jarring. But the important thing is, does it have a story? Well, the cover of the manual clearly indicates that it is a game, and it kind of pulls you out of the fiction. But that and the first page of the manual under Megamania Basics do try to paint a picture of some kind for players. If you think Megamania is just another space game, you're dreaming. And that dream will become a nightmare. A space nightmare. So prepare yourself for one of the most unreal experiences you'll ever encounter. Read these instructions before you begin. Give yourself a fighting chance. You control a fleet of mobile blasters at the bottom of the screen, under constant attack by wave after wave of outrageous objects. Your goal is to accumulate points by knocking out as many enemy objects as possible before your fleet is destroyed. Although I wish the game had done more to immerse the player, it was a different time, and even having a basic outline like this was still somewhat of a rarity. Nevertheless, I found Megamania to be a fun challenge to pick up and toy around with. I'd never played this game before, but I made it a third of the way into the Megamaniacs Club just 5 minutes into my first playthrough. Ever since I saw the name of this game, I knew I had to check it out, and once I actually did give it a playthrough, it was honestly the kind of game I could see myself going back to for a few minutes of stress relief now and then. It doesn't have much in the way of story, but when you have control over something so closely resembling the Starship Enterprise, your imagination is free to fill in the blanks of our story so far. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to episode number 68 of Our Story So Far TV. That's the last episode for Mega March. I know it's not what you were expecting, but it's as close as I'm going to get to pulling an April Fool's prank. I've been talking to a few different people about ways I can expand ideas for the channel, so stay tuned, you might see something different than an episode of Our Story So Far TV. But don't worry, more episodes of the same will continue. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share the link with a friend. Get them to subscribe. It will really go a long way for me. And if if you don't know where to look, easy ways to find my videos and your way back to the YouTube channel are just to go to ourstorysofar.tv. Until next time, take care of yourself.